What is reality? Reality is what we believe to be true about the nature of our surroundings. But how do we come to decide that true nature? Do we conceive it completely on our own? Or do other devices gently sway our thoughts onto a pre-decided path? This is the hard question we must all ask ourselves as free humans on this planet. Who sculpts your reality?
Reality. Ladies and gentlemen, Wednesday nights, and we are live here at the super secret undisclosed location in beautiful Treb-infested Hampton, Virginia.
It's a hell of a place, guys.
Oh yeah, you just look up, you see them, white ones, black ones, blue ones, red ones, all over. Thank you, Northman.
And tonight, I just wanted to throw out a moment of silence for everybody who either is a convenience store clerk, or has been a convenience store clerk, or has unfortunately fallen in the line of duty of being a convenience store clerk. You know, we live in a society that kind of glorifies cops as heroes, but and military and stuff, but they kind of forget the little guy, like the guy who rings out your Slurpee and occasionally gets shot by some crazy asshole who comes into the store at 3 a.m. because they're stealing a car or whatever. So
how's that wound doing, by the way?
I don't even know, but we've had a lot of violent incidents just in the last couple days here in Hampton Roads with 7-Elevens and other convenience stores getting shot up. So, love your corner store. Don't shoot up your corner store.
You get tasty snacks, cigarettes, beer.
Let's end the war on 7-Eleven.
Don't shoot it up, guys. Come on.
Yeah, and you're only going to get like $20 out of the register on third shift anyhow. Not worth it.
So, with that being said, tonight we have a little bit of space news, a little Air Force cheap, the Marine Corps for space thing. What do they call it? The Space Corps. We got some news about that. We got we're going to touch a little bit more on the Vegas thing. Shit's getting crazy now. It's just like maybe someone was getting too close to the truth. Now it's just like piles upon piles upon piles of disinformation.
Yeah, and then we were told that there was a security guard named Jesus Campos that was shot early on, and everybody said that he was killed, but now people are saying he's alive.
Yeah,
so.
And he actually was scheduled to go on television last week, and then the last minute he ran out of the studio and didn't make his appearance, canceled all the rest of his appearance, and then apparently I haven't got a chance to watch it yet, but apparently he did an interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Really?
And apparently he looks like he's just out of it. I don't know. I haven't watched it.
I mean, I'd probably be pretty out of it if I was in that situation myself, but...
Right, and then he had some guy that was allegedly a maintenance man that was there, and, this is coming from Phantom Spy, so, I trust his opinion on it, and he said he felt like the maintenance guy was like a scripted actor.
Oh, and then there's also this thing about a helicopter gunship that's come to light, too. I'm not sure how much stock I put in that, but, it's certainly possible. Also, guys,
if you remember, 10 years ago now? 11, 12 years ago now?
Oh, you're asking a lot. People got short memories out there.
The Real ID Act. Oh my God, the Real ID Act. I just
you remember that whole thing? They were going to put chips in everybody's driver's licenses.
National databases linked together. It's essentially a national ID by proxy, and we're going to get into that in detail, in great, excruciating, agonizing detail, in just a little while. But first up, we have this. Air Force Space Chief sees Final Frontier as battleground. And, if you guys want to call in, it's up there. I just felt lazy and then take it down. Call in if you want to. If you don't, whatever. Don't call in then. All right, so outer space is about to get a whole lot closer. Space, once seen as the benign final frontier, has evolved into a crowded potential battleground that the U.S. must defend as conflicts extend beyond Earth. According to the Air Force's top military space official. Boy, they are just hard up for rolling out some sort of program, aren't they?
They really are. They just want something to go kaboom in space. As if dropping kinetic impactors on the moon and crashing Cassini into Saturn wasn't enough. Now we really got to get to it. Show space who's boss.
So, continuing on, while officials once aspired to treat space as a peaceful refuge from the strife on Earth, it's now congested, contested, and competitive. I mean, it probably has been like that for a while, I would imagine. All three of those trends are now trending upward. So General John W.J. Raymond, the head of the Air Force Space Command, said in an interview Monday at Bloomberg headquarters in New York. From jamming and cyber attacks to kinetic destruction, there's a full range of threats to the U.S. early warning, global positioning system, and communications satellites, Raymond said. Those threats come from economic and military rivals like China, Russia. I'm sorry. I just was picturing Ronald Dale Martin Jr. freaking the fuck out right now. All right, so and also increasing accumulation of debris orbiting the planet. Our goal is not to have conflict in space, said Raymond. Our goal is to win all conflicts in space. We want to deter that conflict from happening, but space is not a benign domain. It's a war-fighting domain, and we need to treat it as such. Dude, this guy has got a giant space war hard-on.
He really does. Like this guy's like Muff Tarkin.
Now I wonder. This guy, what's his name? Frickin' Raymond, General John Raymond. He's the head of this newly formed Air Force Space Command, right? How well informed do you think this guy is? I mean, do you think he knows like deeper black levels? You think he's just like
probably
like a figurehead type thing? Like, so
I think the people that really call the shots are people that are never gonna answer, a Bloomberg politics interview. Right.
No, well, I mean,
People
not so
whose
much
names
calling
you're
the
never gonna
shots,
hear.
but how well informed is this guy? Do you think? Like, does he know about deep black space programs and shit? Does he know about the triangular spacecraft?
4-star general, he probably does. I would assume.
I don't know, man. Shit is pretty compartmentalized. But who knows, man? I guess time may tell. The 4-star general said the Air Force is examining methods and technologies to improve the protection of U.S. satellites already in orbit and those under construction. So Russia, you're saying, on the surface, they're saying, we want to weaponize space because people might take out our satellites. Which I guess if our early warning system is essentially based on all satellites now, I'm assuming, then, that could be an issue. And you remember a while back, China was shooting down its own satellites.
Yeah, just showing the world, hey, check out what we can do.
Look. So, Russia, China. Russia's Deputy Prime Minister, Dmitry Rogozin, has compared U.S. ballistic missile defense efforts in Eastern Europe to President Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative of 1983. And
you mean Star Wars?
Star Wars. So, no, I'm not even going to go there. He said such an effort justifies the development of Russian counter space programs. Ronnie, you hear that? You hear that, Ronnie? According to a U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency report this year, Russia believes that having the military capabilities to counter space operations will deter aggression by space-enabled adversaries and enable Russia to control escalation of conflict if deterrence fails. How you feel about that? I mean, if we're sitting here militarizing the shit out of space after we said...
yeah, I mean.
What, I've been meaning... it just it keeps slipping my mind. Look... I'm pretty sure we had treaties to not weaponize space, and that's why Star Wars was such a fucking controversy. Yeah, I mean, that was why it was such a controversy to begin with. And so what the hell is going on now? It's just like they just abandoned all that, and everybody's like, fuck it, nukes in space.
Yeah, pretty much. That seems to be the order of the century. Which makes me wonder, do governments know something? Are they weaponizing space with intent?
Yeah, quite possibly. And who knows, man?
Is the intent necessarily anything back down here on Earth? Maybe they are trying to establish some sort of planetary defense grid without freaking everybody out, and the idiots in power tend to think that maybe it's maybe it scares people less to tell them that, oh, don't worry, we're aiming these weapons at ourselves. Because, if they knew that there was something out there to aim our weapons at.
Man, I keep hearing this argument. To me, man, it is just so damn poor. The whole, if we tell people there's aliens, the whole planet will melt. I'm so sick of that shit, man. It ain't gonna happen, dude.
Well, and, I think 90% of the reasonable people out there just, assume that there is something else out there because there's something here.
So likewise, in parallel with its space program, China continues to develop a variety of counter-space capabilities designed to limit or to prevent the use of space-based assets. So they want to be able to just fucking wipe out satellites left and right. Or, who knows, Trebs, right? The Russians supposedly got them big ball things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so by its adversaries, the Pentagon, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so space junk. Beyond the threat of warfare, space is also a junkyard of about 23,000 objects, including 1,400 international satellites floating or orbiting in space since the Soviet Union launched Sputnik in 1957. The most immediate threat to the world's 1,400 commercial and military satellites is the more than 20,000 pieces of debris tracked and cataloged by Space Command personnel. Raymond said, "We see that congestion only growing. We take about 400,000 observations a day with our sensor network. Of the 1,400 satellites, about 75% are maneuverable, and on average, once every 3 days, the satellite is moved to avert potential collision based on a warning from the U.S. Raymond also states, the U.S. acts as the space traffic control of the world. Now, here's an interesting thing. These people that are sitting around tracking space debris, like, they've got to be seeing shit flying around that's not space debris and not satellites. I mean, how do we get a hold of these people, man? I want to hear what these people got to say. Obviously, they're probably not going to say much. But it would be interesting to have their job for a day, because I guarantee you would see some fucking crazy shit, man.
It'd be even better if they were to pick up that phone and dial 528-8130. But, anybody could do that. You don't necessarily have to be somebody from NORAD or, whatever. You could just be some guy and pick up a phone and dial 528-8130, and it'd be cool.
Okay, so the Space Fence, a radar system to be located. This is something that they're putting together. They're calling it the Space Fence. A radar system to be located in the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands can detect smaller microsatellites and debris than current systems. So, and this is so Lockheed is developing this, which is another interesting thing. So, there you have it there.
Everyone's favorite bunch of space Nazis.
Everybody's favorite bunch of space Nazis. So, it's pretty crazy, man. I mean, why do they insist on weaponizing space? There's got to be something else behind this other than, satellites. I don't know, man.
Well, I really hope that's what it is. I hope it's that the powers of the world do happen to know that, there's something out there that's worth pointing our weapons at, and they just don't want to freak everybody out by telling them.
Kind of makes you wonder, is all this in preparation for,
don't get on the ships.
We've been talking about, not us, well, we've been talking about it, but other people have been saying that, there's different packs with different aliens and humans, and you got the whole secret space program narrative, and the whole split, the whole alliance versus the cabal, which I'm still not sure if I buy into this whole alliance idea, but it's possible, I guess. You know what I mean? But could this have something to do with that? Maybe it's getting ready to turn hot, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly be a distraction from, worrying about North Korea if there's an off-world invasion. But again, I would assume that, right now with the political situation the way it is, if aliens did appear, to the world and all the governments of the world were like, "Hey, aliens, we're gonna get them," I would assume almost that it really was just a cover for going after North Korea.
Yeah. Well, why would you say that? Man, that is quite loud.
That really is.
So why would you say that?
I would say that because of, what we heard about Project Bluebeam and them staging alien invasions as an excuse to...
So you think they would need a fake alien invasion to legitimize going into Korea? I think they could probably achieve that with a false flag nuke or something, man.
Yeah, that too. I don't know. I definitely wouldn't trust it.
I don't put anything past these people, though. But... outside of that, we talked a lot about Antarctica on the show. Antarctica is a big theme within the secret space program narratives. You've got different people saying different things about it. Ancient aliens crash landed there, fleets of motherships, Atlantis, you name it. People are saying shit about it. So we try to keep an eye on it. But we've got this for you tonight.
U-boat Nazis.
It's pretty interesting, and this may not be really new news, but it's new to me, so we're going to go with it. October 16th. This is on news.com.au, so it's coming on in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
A mysterious world of upside-down canyons have been discovered on the underside of Antarctica's ice shelves, and it could be bad news. I don't know why they have to add it could be bad news. It
could be. Looks like a good place to park a U-boat, huh?
Yeah, right? A mysterious world of upside-down canyons have been discovered. Remote sensing researcher Noel Gorlman and his colleagues enlisted the help of the European Space Agency to better understand the natural phenomena. And this kind of goes to something we talked about the other week about the swirling currents. I don't know if we actually got to it. It was in our docket, but they found these swirling currents underneath Antarctica that are always constantly going. So using the ESA's Cryosat and Copernicus Sentinel-1 satellites, which have radar techniques to gauge ice shelf thickness and dynamics, the team have been examining the Dotson ice shelf in West Antarctica.
How do they figure out which part of it is West Antarctica?
Well, I mean...
because every point in Antarctica is north of something.
True that. I don't know, maybe they're using other continents as reference.
Latitude and longitude, I guess.
Okay, according to Mr. Gorlman, the 50-kilometer wide crevice is responsible for the thinning of the ice shelves and also rising sea levels. We have found subtle changes in both surface elevation data from Cryosat and ice velocity from Sentinel-1, which shows that melting is not uniform, but has centered on a 5-kilometer wide channel that runs 60 kilometers under the underside of the shelf. He believes that the under-ice canyon is caused by warm water, about 1 Celsius, I'm guessing, which circulates under the shelf, stirred clockwise and upwards by Earth's rotation. Now, this is talking about the vortex action of the water down there underneath. So, revisiting older satellite data, we think that this melt pattern has been taking place for at least the entire 25 years that the Earth observation satellites have been recording changes in Antarctica. So, going on for a long time. I mean, I wonder what it looked like. Could all this warming, all of a sudden warming in the last 25, 30, 40, 50 years be like activity stirring down there? Like underneath, maybe they started cranking up the Nazi command or whatever, I don't know. Over time, the melt has calved in a broad channel-like feature up to 200 meters deep and 15 kilometers across that runs the entire length of the underside of the Dotson ice shelf. So, essentially, I'm not going to finish reading this. If you want to, you can check it out, news.com.au. So, there's big, giant caverns under the ice. And this just goes to something we've been talking about for a long time, about the U-boats going down there, tunnels, underground bases. The Corey Good camp saying they're doing secret weapon experimentation in Antarctica. However you feel about his information, but it's out there.
Well, and I found something else interesting, too, that kind of ties in with this. I was looking at this thing about this giant hole, supposedly, that opened up in the ice down there. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from Forbes. Forbes.com mentions that, as soon as this comes up, thank you for your inspirational quotes, Forbes.com. A massive hole just opened up in Antarctica's ice, and scientists don't know why. During Antarctica's winter, a massive hole appeared in the thick ice, baffling scientists who observed this phenomenon twice in many years. The massive hole spread to be as large as the state of Maine, and the maximum extent covered 31,000 square miles, 19.8 million acres. A similar, albeit smaller hole was noticed around this time last year, prompting scientists to take a closer look at this area this year. It's called a polynya, which is defined as a stretch of an open, ice-free water surrounded by sea ice. A polynya formed in the Weddell Sea in the mid-1970s for multiple years, and was many times larger than the current polynya in Antarctica. So, they're saying it's caused by an upwelling of warm, salty waters to the surface. This melts the sea ice and provides continual replenishment of warm water to the surface of the ocean. As this warm water cools, it sinks and is replaced by deep warm water, and the cycle continues. So, as long as this upwell spot, this current keeps going.
Now, could this be something that's, quickening because of the natural state of affairs, this whole ascension process that people are saying the Earth's going to, or, increased solar activity, something going funky with time?
Maybe they just need a driveway.
I'm talking about the actual current that's creating all these problems down there.
Oh. Well, the only thing that's constant about Earth's climate is that it's basically been in flux since Earth began.
True that, but what I'm talking about is this actual vortex action that's happening under the ice down there in the water currents.
Mm.
And they're saying the Earth's rotation, but apparently it's getting worse because that's what's causing all this. To go along with this too, we also have, let me get this out, mysterious marine life lies beneath breakaway Larsen iceberg in Antarctica.
Yeah, you remember a little while back we were talking about this, it was, a sheet of ice the size of, Delaware?
Or Rhode Island or something like that.
Yeah, that broke off of Antarctica, Larsen Sea. So that trillion-ton iceberg is still floating around out there.
The release of the trillion-ton iceberg means researchers can explore an ecosystem which has been hidden for up to 120,000 years. So, all kinds of crazy shit under there, I'm sure. The 2,200 square mile section of the Larsen Sea ice shelf, almost 4 times the size of London, snapped off in mid-July, reducing the size of the shelf by 12% and changing the landscape of the peninsula forever. It'll never get cold and freeze back up again, right? The release of the new iceberg, called calving, means researchers can now, for the first time, investigate the mysterious marine ecosystem that has been hidden for up to 120,000 years. So, marine biologist Katrine Lintz from the British Antarctic Survey is leading the mission. She said, "We have a unique opportunity to study how marine life responds to dramatic environmental change." I think the point of this is, though, there's still all kinds of shit in Antarctica that mainstream science and stuff that has no clue about what's down there. So, who knows what they could find, even the mainstream people. Maybe Nessie's under there.
Stuff that hasn't been seen for,
dinosaurs or
millions
some
of
shit.
years.
Who knows, man?
Well, dinosaurs were cold-blooded, but weird stuff like coelacanths, I could see that. Coelacanths were this they caught one off the coast of Africa back in the 60s or 70s, and it was a species of fish that they'd found fossils of and had just assumed that they'd been extinct for millions of years, but it turns out they're still around.
So, shifting gears a little bit away from Antarctica, you guys may or may not have seen this UFO spotted over Yellowstone volcano.
Yeah, and this actually this made Fox News.
That says a lot.
Oh, there must have been enough people to have noticed it for it to actually make a mainstream thing. You know what I mean? All I'm saying is
No, yeah, totally. And it there was other sources other than Fox News. This was just the first one that had a decent video that I grabbed. So, a video has popped up on YouTube which purportedly shows a UFO zigzagging over the Yellowstone volcano. The choppy video, which is more than 3 minutes in length, appears to show a metallic object in the sky. Bright light emerges from the object for a few seconds, and then it speeds off into the distance. The video was taken on June 9th, but only recently uploaded to the video sharing site. So let's go ahead and check it. see if we get our stream taken out. So, yeah.
All right, so it looks like it's pretty much like lit from, like a front lit view.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the sun.
It's crazy how it just gets super fucking bright all of a sudden.
We can see the shadow from the trees, right?
But I mean, is that like perspective? Like, well, just because it's far away and it gets closer and it gets brighter?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So apparently this isn't a loop. This is several captures of the same phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now they're slowing it down 4 times.
So okay, so there's the loop.
You know, guys, I'm sorry about this. I know it's probably really tiny on your screen, so I'm going to hop over to YouTube and see if I can get it to full screen for you. Okay. Four times slow.
See, I saw that. That looked like a car.
Okay.
Though.
There was a little dot over there to the right. Now we're zooming in. What are we looking at here? I'm not seeing it yet. Yeah, it definitely looks like it gets brighter, and not due to perspective, I don't think. And if you look, there was a flash down at the bottom underneath before it shows up. And then there's also another dot over there to the right.
Yeah, I saw it. Right over the steam.
Yeah, you see this flash that comes down this way like that? Boom.
Yeah.
Right under by that left geyser. Let's wait. Let's watch one more time. Let's see. Jesus, man. 6 times slow? I mean, was it really? Come on, man. Get to the point, dude. Oh, my God. Why would you do that? What the hell? Let's see what's going on here. All right.
See, that looks like a car right there.
What the?
That's a car.
No, that's not even a road, dude. That's a paint. That's a geyser, dude. That's not a road there.
Yeah, right there in the front. That looks like a road. You don't see
right here?
The double yellow line going down the...
Yeah, right there, but not on the green.
I'm talking about there's a bright streak of light that goes down the road, and I'm pretty sure that's a car.
Come on, let's see it. Look, there's something down in the left corner.
Yeah, I see that. The glint of light that shines
there
out of the landscape. That
left corner.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then it just like... Was it casting a shadow there?
Well, it was almost like the opposite of a shadow.
Look on the ground.
It looked like it was
like
shining
a light shadow. Yeah, it was shining a light, maybe.
Huh.
That's pretty damned interesting, guys. What do you guys think about that? You can give us a call there, 757-525. What's the other for?
No, that's 528-8130.
There you go, 757-528-8130. We know our telephone number because we can count to 1, 2, 3.
It was 525 back in the day.
Yeah, when we had the other thing. You know what I mean?
At that other place with those guys.
So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Let me see if anybody's paying attention to that. What they think there. What else we got here? I think we have another UFO sighting here. This one is interesting. There's no fancy video or photos. It's just someone. Okay, here we go. Could be a glare from the sun behind the camera if the thing turns slightly and shows more of an edge. That's similar. Okay. Sorry, guys. So we've got open minds. This was pretty interesting, I thought. It's not a too particularly common sighting. So Florida witness reports rectangular UFO near Tampa Bay. A witness in Tarpon Springs, Florida, has observed a rectangular UFO during the day, according to reports submitted to the Mutual UFO Network earlier today. According to the witness, he's gone outside to smoke a cigarette when he noticed a flat rectangular object under the clouds. He said the area has a lot of air traffic, and at first he thought it might be a helicopter, but he soon realized it was not. After a few seconds of watching it, the object zipped off. The witness estimated the object to be about 100 miles away over the Gulf of Mexico. He said it was headed south toward the coast of Tampa. The witness drew a map seen below showing the path of the object. You guys can see that there. Another strange aspect to the sighting is that the witness claims he saw spots when he closed his eyes. Apparently like those when you look at a bright object like the sun. However, the witness says he was not looking in the sun's direction. Witness report verbatim. Came outside smoking face west on a clear sunny day with a few clouds at 11:27 a.m. on 10/16/17. We have a lot of air traffic in the Tampa Bay area. I noticed a dark rectangular object at 33 degrees to the northwest over a mile away. I thought it was a bird gliding at first, dark with no reflection from the sun. Sun was still in the east and the object was west, so it should have been bright if there were a plane. We were subject to military aircraft such as Black Hawk Hellos. Object appeared a thin rectangular object and moved south in front of the clouds for several seconds. In less than a mile and approximately 100 miles per hour, it just vanished. No cloud cover when this happened. I tracked its known path for a while to see if it would reemerge. It did not. Then I noticed my eyes were full of spots every time I blinked. Similar photo flash, but a 20/20 grid of dots. A 20 by 20 grid of dots. This is what he saw by looking at this.
Wow.
Like light. This is not unusual looking up at the sky in Florida, but not when looking away from the sun and not in a grid pattern. Yeah, I would say I never looked at the sun and seen a grid pattern. Not sure what I saw due to its distance. I know I was fully awake and conscious and saw this event clearly. The object would have been over the Gulf of Mexico, at least 1 mile out. Now, this picture, it was not taken by this guy, but this picture was taken by somebody else, and, it's alleged to be a legitimate picture. Alleged rectangular UFO photo taken in Federal Heights, Colorado. Photo info. On an unrecorded day in August 87, Joe Clower was out driving with his camera in his car when he spotted a most unusual flying object over the twilight sky. It was a dark flying rectangle having lights in all 4 corners. It flew over silently. As he prepared the camera, he got one picture of it above. When that film was finally developed and he saw the image, he could no longer accurately remember the date. A friend was with him during the photographic event. So, yeah, that picture there, it's not taken by this guy, but it could be an accurate rendition of what he's seeing. It's pretty interesting. I mean, I guess that could also be some kind of weird-shaped diamond, right? It doesn't have to be a rectangle, because it could be, though. It just depends on the angle you're looking at it, I guess, but diamond shape would make more sense. There's a lot of Lockheed experimental diamond-shaped planes and shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, there you
It's
have
pretty
it.
far out.
Black rectangles now flying around out there.
Triangles
What is that,
weren't enough.
Is that like an upgrade? Like, instead of 3, we need 4 motor.
Dude, there's going to be like black hexagons in like 10 years.
Oh.
The rhombus of doom. So,
I mean, you ever heard anything like that before?
I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like a big flat square thing would be like, it kind of makes sense. Like that's kind of the thing you would use for a platform to, especially for like shipping cargo, right?
Yeah, I guess. I was thinking about this the other night, and we've talked about on this program the Vanablack, right? It's a substance that is blacker than black. It's so black you can't even see any details. You could cover a piece of aluminum foil in this Vanablack stuff and crinkle it all up, right? And then if you look at it, shine a light on it, all you'll see is a flat black piece. You'll see no details whatsoever. I'm wondering if they're coating these things in something similar. That Jason Moss guy said that the triangle he saw his alter self in was completely just black. Like you couldn't even make anything. It was like blended in with the sky. Like you couldn't see any detail or nothing, other than it was a black triangle with lights.
It's pretty far out.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, being as I am naturally a skeptic at heart, as much as I want to believe in all this stuff, whenever I see a UFO report, the first thing I think of is it a drone? And that line of thinking is going to be a lot more common in LA these days coming up.
No doubt.
You hear about that? LAPD is rolling out drones. That's right, guys. This is coming straight from the LA Times. LAPD becomes nation's largest police department to test drones after oversight panel signs off on controversial program.
Do you want Skynet? Should I say it again? This is how you get Skynet.
Do you want? This is what happens if like Skynet got together with like 1984 and they fucked. This is what happened.
So tell us about it, Dan.
So after months of often heated debate, a civilian oversight panel Tuesday signed off on a year-long test of drones by the LAPD, which will become the largest police department in the nation to deploy the controversial technology. The police commission's 3-1 vote prompted jeers, cursing, and a small protest that spilled into a downtown intersection just outside the LAPD's glass headquarters, evidence of opposition that police have faced in recent weeks as they try to reassure wary residents that the airborne devices will not be misused. Because, you know, as we know, it's only a few bad apples, right? It's only a couple of bad cops out there, but the majority of them are good cops, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What happens when the bad cops get a hold of drones that can, you know, chase you down and assassinate you with, you know, basically a flying shotgun?
Yeah, I mean, the technology 10, 15 years ago is leaps and bounds, you know, now from then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, flying helicopters with shotguns ain't shit to what they got now.
Yeah.
I mean, they could probably be flying around drones with, you know, directed energy weapons easily.
Mini railguns.
I mean, they already figured out how to fire it off of fucking helicopters and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they can easily swap that right over to drones. And that's just on the surface level bullshit that we're allowed to know about.
And not to even mention the surveillance thing. You know, we promised we were going to get into Real ID here in a little bit, but California is already, I'm sure, Real ID compliant. So I would assume, don't they have chips in their IDs, Don?
No, we'll get into that.
Well, so let's say you put an RFID reader, an RFID spoofer on a drone and flew it around. You could hack everything. You'd have everybody's shit right there.
Mm-hmm.
So, enough conjecture for now. The use of drones or small UAVs, or small unmanned aerial systems in police speak, has been a contentious issue for law enforcement in LA, where the nation's largest sheriff department has flown one since January. Advocates say camera-mounted drones could help protect officers and others by collecting crucial information during high-risk situations or searches without risking their safety. I kind of see that too. The way that, you know, you could use these drones to get into dangerous places, or, you know, situations where you wouldn't want to send a live human into perdition just to see what's going on.
Right.
For many privacy
Yeah,
advocates,
I mean, they've been using robots for explosive detonations and shit like that for a long time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, speaking of which, not to derail it too far from what we're talking about, you remember Orlando?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the drone that they sent in, and then all of a sudden there was a giant hole blown in the fucking wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they used a robot to send a bomb in.
Yeah, we talked about that. It was the first time that the police had basically used a remote-controlled bomb to kill a suspect. No due process, just fuck you, buddy, blam.
So, I mean, the precedence is already there for that type of fucking shady activity. I mean, they've been doing it in other places, so I wouldn't imagine it would take long for LA to really start using these things to fuck people up, man.
I mean, wasn't Judge Dredd in LA? Just saying.
Shit, I can't remember.
Just saying. For many privacy advocates and police critics, however, the drones stir Orwellian visions of an unwarranted surveillance or fears of militarized weapon-toting devices patrolling the skies. LAPD brass, along with police commissioners, tried to ease these concerns by promising careful restrictions on when the drones would be used and strong oversight of the pilot program. Weapons and facial recognition technology will also be prohibited. So, you know, until they're not.
Exactly, until they're not. Prohibited for now. And it's a shady little trick that they like to do, and we'll be getting into this later when we start talking about the Real ID. What they do is they'll make a law and they'll be like, you say we can't do this like that, but then they'll be like,
but then they can.
All right. Let's put it like this.
This was an emergency.
Let's put it like this. We're going to ban cigarettes, right? Just as an extreme example. It's not in reality, but this is just an example of how they would do it. We're going to ban cigarettes, right? So we're going to put this piece of legislation in that says we're going to ban cigarettes. But then it's going to go through committees, work its way through the weaselly-ass political system, and come out and say, we're going to ban cigarettes at the governor's discretion. So that's the way they do these things. They put different people in control of the particular specifics, which can change at any time. Say they put the Department of Interior California or something, just random example out there. They say, we're going to ban cigarettes. It's at the discretion of the attorney general or something, right? And then the attorney general at the time is like, yeah, fuck cigarettes. And then 2 years later, the next attorney general is like, maybe not. I mean, it's actually kind of a bad example, but...
Well, and so much for being a nation of laws and not of men.
So, what else we got there?
Well, let's see. Besides Skynet, let's see.
No, I was talking... You were done reading the article?
Oh, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yep, that's pretty much all the good... Oh, well, hang on. There's a little bit more. Some critics said they could not trust the department to follow its own rules, no matter how stringent. Gee, thanks, Captain Obvious. Mission creep is the course of the concern, said Jim Lafferty of the National Lawyers Guild of L.A. The history of this department is of starting off with supposedly good intentions about the new toys that it gets, only then to get too tempted by what they can do with those toys. Which, as naturally suspicious I am of lawyers, it sounds like this guy's nailing it. The president of the union representing the LAPD's rank and file praised the commission's decision, calling drones a tool that will protect both police officers and residents. Whether it's an active shooter at a school or a suspect barricaded in a home in LA, this technology will help us save lives, Craig Lally, the union's president, said in a statement. After the vote, LAPD Charlie Beck said the department would probably purchase 2 drones, one to use and one for backup, and roll them out in about 30 days.
2 drones?
Yeah, only 2. Only 2 for now.
For now.
The debate over whether the LAPD should use them began in 2014. The department received 2 Dragonflyer X6 drones from police in Seattle. Devices the Washington agency unloaded after heavy criticism from the public. Outcry continued in LA. The drones were grounded and ultimately destroyed before they were ever flown. I will not sacrifice public support for a piece of police equipment, Beck said at the time. Commissioner Cynthia McLean Hill, who cast the sole vote, was against the drone program on Tuesday, asked Beck about his comments 3 years ago and why he thought now was a good time to revisit the issue. He pointed to the wider use of drones by other agencies and described a much more robust feedback mechanism this time around. Many in the audience jeered. So, at least these guys are catching some flack over this. At least these guys are getting trolled for it.
You would expect, especially in California, the people to just be like, well, whatever. We love you, government, state. Yeah. I mean, if you live in California and listen to this show, no offense, all right? But for the most part, especially in them larger cities, it's a bunch of fucking status, man. And,
It's, I typically refer to it as California.
All right, so
California Uber Alice.
Speaking of drones, man. Reynolds from Forest, allegedly a drone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so gray aliens, drones. So it's kind of a precedent for, ETs using drones. Maybe it's possible that this next thing we got for you guys could be a drone, but an intergalactic drone.
Yeah.
So we got this all disclosed TV, so take that for what it is. I mean, I would say most everything on there is probably bullshit, but not everything, because we do put our show on there, and our show is great, right? All right, maybe not, but let's check it out.
Oh, yeah, one last thing about the drones. Somebody in our chat says, what happens when cops are flying around in drones and cruising around in traffic, and them is inevitable. So,
well,
you're going to see...
If they're in the drone, it's not technically a drone, because it's piloted.
Well, yeah, they're piloting the drone remotely, so they don't have to... But you're going to have ticket drones flying around.
Ticket drones.
Mm-hmm.
Meter-made drones.
Revenue bots.
Revenue bot. All right, so let's check this out. I got the... Okay, we're not going to hear that music.
No, we're not. We don't need to hear that.
No. Okay, so this is purporting to show a sphere draining energy out of the sun. So, what am I seeing? We're zooming in on exactly nothing. Dan, did you watch this video before you put it in? What, are you seeing something? Because I'm not seeing anything, man.
You see that trail? That sort of.
Oh, yeah, the little black trail?
Yeah.
That's the thing? I mean, that's not like a regular...
I think that it's a coronal hole, and those do happen. But give it a sec. I think they flipped the spectrum. But you see how it looks like there's something vaguely spherical? Sort of floating right there? Like you see the limb of the sphere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The black, right?
No, I'm thinking, the black.
Curve on the black?
It's what you don't see. Now, that could be explained by, eddies and vortices in the sun's magnetic field, because it's been proven that these prominences and these flares and stuff...
When they're saying that's 100 times bigger than Earth.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, sure. Earth is really small compared to the sun. That could be explained by something... Yeah, I don't think that's a solid object, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
So what do you think? Some kind of bubble?
Yeah.
Plasma bubble?
Yeah, I think it could be a plasma bubble or...
Now, the question is it a plasma bubble surrounding a physical object? Or is it just random plasma bubbles in space, as you're telling me?
I think it's probably a natural disturbance in the sun's magnetic field.
Okay. I guess I could buy that.
Like a really highly charged cluster of particles that's just repelling all the gas around.
Yeah,
them.
I mean, because it definitely doesn't retain a perfect spherical shape the whole time. I don't know, man. It's pretty interesting, though.
And there's so much we don't know about the way the physics of the sun works.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
All right, well, before we hit the break, did you want to talk about this Trek disclosure you got here?
Oh, yeah, I think, I do kind of want to bring that up. There's this article that I found on Steemit, and they're talking about, actual evidence for panspermia.
Well, hold on. Before you go any further into that.
I'm angry!
Why?
Outside of that, what exactly is panspermia?
Panspermia is the idea that life is seeded across the cosmos. It's the idea that, it could be anything from spores seeding, or comets dropping organic molecules, or it could be anywhere from that to the idea like, the founders went around the universe dropping little bits of their genetic code onto proto-Earths, hoping that they would develop into sentient life.
So, I mean, life is seeded.
Yep, and that's
So, hopefully you've all read Fact Canon number 5, The Origin of Life, Panspermia and Cosmic Ancestry. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's just an overview of what Dan just said. So, exactly. Yeah. All right, so 1981 book, Evolution from Space. This is, I guess, where this theory was first put forth, at least in a book form.
That's where this guy first put it forth. Okay. I think it was probably around previously to that, but, I still think it's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And the writer of this article says that,
So the bulk of this post is about research into extremophiles. Mm-hmm. Now, that's interesting because our boy Thomas, the Dark Fleet, Japanese Dark Fleet guy, he's always about the extremophiles, saying it all goes back to that.
So what kind and they even talk about the different kinds of extremophiles. So, let's talk about that for a sec. We've got the cryptoendoliths, they live in rocks, hyperthermophiles and psychrophiles that survive in extremes of hot and cold, oligotrophs that live with very little nutrient material, piezophiles, creatures that live under really high pressure, radio-resistant organisms like radiolarium. They tolerate really high levels of ionizing radiation and sometimes even derive sustenance from it. And then xerophiles with an X, xerophiles, which they live in extremely dry conditions.
Okay, so if you're sitting out there and you hear the word extremophile and you got crickets chirping, just for you, a extremophile is an organism that thrives in physically or geochemically extreme conditions that are detrimental to most other life on Earth. Wikipedia lists 18 subcategories of extremophile, which is what he just said. So, I mean...
I'm wondering if humans that live in New Jersey should be considered.
Right?
And there are zillions of these things, like pretty much everywhere you look on Earth.
And they
Like,
can survive in space.
they make these little chrysalises.
The tardigrade is interesting.
They don't fly away though.
The tardigrade is interesting because it can take DNA from outside and incorporate it into its own chain.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty. So they got a little bit of everything. It looks like a crazy space elephant thing.
It kind of looks like an armored insectoid aardvark.
That's a good one.
But like they're really cool looking. Like and you know,
I'm gonna pull up some pictures for you guys in case you're unfamiliar with what that is.
they also call them water bears. And if you go into the average North American forest and reach down and pick up a chunk of moss off of the ground, there could be like trillions of these things living in that little chunk of moss.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I think they're actually kind of oddly cute.
So what are you saying? You think that the whole cosmic network accessed by tardigrades is a real thing?
Well, I'm not sure if it's really accessed by tardigrades, but I do think that it's possible that you could have that. You could have something in DNA. You remember what they were saying about the reason the Dracos are interested in Earth is because our DNA allows us to survive warp travel?
No, that was Jason Moss, and he was saying that the reason that the Zetas were interested in DNA is because faster than life. He's saying there was a cosmic speed limit for DNA. Like, the species can only go so fast before they can't do it. I guess they'll die. I don't know. Apparently, you just can't break that speed. So something about the human DNA, maybe because it was so highly manipulated or whatever the case may be, allows that entity to travel in a faster than light device. So separate, I'm assuming, from folding space,
Actually moving
point
through
to point
space.
Yeah, actually traveling in a ship faster than light. Not folding space, warp drive, not that shit. An actual FTL drive. So it kind of begs the question too, would they really be flying around in FTL drives anyway, considering that the tech is probably there to be able to just fold space or quantum drive, or not?
Maybe it depends on how far you
temporal
gotta go.
drives, whatever it is. Possibly, maybe they're just going in the next solar system or something.
Yeah, like
still, even
FTL
so,
makes sense if you're going like
even so, man,
less than 50 light years, and
the
anything more than
closest-
that, you got to fold space.
Let's think about it like this: the closest star to us, Dan.
Proxima Centauri,
Okay, how far?
about 4 light years
So that would take 4 years to go there.
at light speed.
Why the hell would you do that if you could just fold space?
I mean, yeah, I guess you wouldn't, but I guess it depends.
Maybe they just ain't figured that part out. I don't know.
Maybe it's because of the energy requirements. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're just moving cargo or a ship full of AIs, you don't need to spend the energy.
Right, you could
fold
just ship
space.
them on. But if you're just moving cargo or a ship full of AIs, you wouldn't need a human DNA to enable you to travel faster than light. Unless, say, maybe there was a small crew complement of living beings.
Yeah, like especially in cryostasis. Like, I mean, assuming cryo is a thing.
Well,
But it's one thing that they hinted at on the new Star Trek is that these little tardigrade buggers, even though the ones that they have in the show, even though the one in the show is from a completely different star system than ours, there was a fungus that went along with it. It was Mycelium Stelia Vittori or something like that. It was basically it meant star traveler fungus. And they said that this stuff had 50% of the same DNA that humans do. Just, I mean, like, hell, you and an oak tree have 50% of the same DNA, roughly. So if there's something... I want between what I'm hearing about human DNA being able to survive faster than light travel and what's coming out in Star Trek, it really makes my head swirl about, maybe there is something to this network of DNA. How'd they say it in the show? It was the muscles and veins that hold the galaxy together.
yeah.
And then you couple that with what they just recently came out with about how half of the missing matter in the universe has been found, all that baryonic dark matter.
Right.
So, I'm just connecting the dots here, man.
I mean, dude, sound to me, man. Sound. All right, so we're going to go ahead and Tardigrades live in my moss garden. Do they really?
Yeah, tardigrades are everywhere.
Phantom Spy says they're actually 1 millimeter.
A millimeter?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought they were too. But
I thought they were microscopic.
no, apparently they're around 1 millimeter, according to Phantom Spy. All right, so we are going to go ahead and hit that break. But when we get back, we have the elusive interview with the guy who allegedly was shot by Stephen Paddock. We're going to go ahead and take a first look at that. Give you some commentary on that. We're going to go through a little bit of the other Vegas shooting, and then we're going to get into the big topic here that's really, really just... I'm angry! Oh! Real ID. So we will see you guys on the other side, possibly.
Possibly.
Play.
Good times, ow!
It's not working.
time begotten blood. Broken worlds will be diminished. It's the end of our days. Follow the empty silence to a room without pain. No time for betrayal. Could it matter anyway? Everything seems so clear. From the darkness we won't fear. Deception awaits us all. Our last days have come. Follow the empty silence to a room without shame. No time for betrayal. Could it matter anyway? We carry on like nothing's wrong till we become ashes. We carry on like nothing's wrong till we become ashes. From dust to dust without regret. Don't grieve for those you've never met. The time for silence has won. The mistakes have all been undone. Follow the empty silence to a room without blame. No time for betrayal.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey.
we are back.
Oh, man.
Hour 2 of Reality Brief going strong for you guys. If you like what you hear, you can check us out at the facebook.com/realitybrief. If you're listening on Facebook, watching on Facebook, Twitch, whatever, Daily Motion, hop on over to the YouTube channel, give us a like, subscribe, whatever.
It's so easy to get to. It's youtube.com/c/realitybrief.
And we've got no
Isn't
one,
that cool?
no one to thank but you guys for that.
Yes. We love you guys.
We also do the Twitter thing. You can check us out on Twitter at realitybrief111. We got an awesome Facebook group for you guys. Nice postings. But, lately we haven't been posting quite as much because Mr. Dan got himself flagged for spam. Because he loves Reality Brief so much, he's just got to put it everywhere.
Well, that's kind of not our... I blame Zuckerberg for that.
Zucked. Totally zucked.
We got zucked off.
One last thing, though. If you like it a lot, if you're just in love with us, if you like this body, if you like this show so much, hop on over to patreon.com/realitybrief. Maybe consider, pledging $1 or something. Help us out.
It doesn't even have to be a whole dollar. It could be like 50 cents.
Maybe. I don't know if it even works like that. But if you can give us 50 cents, we'll take it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we love you.
So, during the break, or right before the break, our wonderful esteemed colleague, Phantom Spy, sent us what is supposedly a leaked showing of the Ellen DeGeneres interview. So, it's only 8 minutes long, so I guess we're going to go ahead and take the chance of getting banned from YouTube for life to give you guys this exclusive.
Tell you what, we could pause it 3 minutes in and give a brief analysis.
Nah, see, what'll happen is, the main thing that'll happen is they'll smack PP to be like, yo, ridiculous. We're blocking this worldwide. Thank you, Alex. We're blocking this worldwide after the broadcast so nobody can see it ever. So... then I had to go in and I had to go, okay, I'll clip that out. But at least you guys watching live now will be able to see this first look, if it is indeed a first look.
Thank you both for being here. And first of all, how are you both doing?
I'm doing better each day, slowly but surely, just healing physically and mentally.
Yeah, I imagine that you relived that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you doing, Stephen?
It's definitely hard. As each day passes, though, we're working to get over this.
Okay, so Jesus, you're the security officer, and you were called to check on a door that was, I guess, when a door is left open for a certain amount of time, you're supposed to go check on it, right?
Yes, we get notifications, making sure that to secure them, or if they were already been secured, just making that. That check on the doors.
Okay, so you were going up the fire escape to get there?
Via the stairwell. I was coming from the 31st up to the 32nd.
Right.
When I approached the door, it didn't open, and it was blocked off, so I had to reroute.
Is that a normal thing, that the door at the fire escape, or the stairwell would be blocked off?
No, they're always supposed to remain open.
Right.
And so after I would drop down and then came back through the hallway, and then I approached the room, got into the door. There was a metal bracket holding the door in place.
Right. So what we're talking about here, just so everybody's clear, okay, so this is where the hotel room where the shooter was. This is the stairway, and this door here was blocked, and you didn't know that till you came up through the elevator and went through this door and saw that there was something blocking that door. And when you saw that, did you think, that's weird, why would somebody put brackets on a door?
Yeah, that's just out of the ordinary.
That was the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you walk out of this, and this just slammed?
Well, when I was in between that area, I was...
Okay.
And at that time, I heard what I assumed it was drilling sounds. And I believed that they were in the area working somehow.
So you thought the drilling, they were gunshots, but you thought it was just drilling sounds?
At first, I think it was just drilling sounds.
Right. So then at what point did you get shot? What happens here?
As that door's closing and it's so heavy, it'll slam. I'm walking down this way, and I believe that's what caught the shooter's attention. as I was walking down, I heard rapid fire. And at first, I took cover. I felt a burning sensation. I went to go lift my pant leg up, and I saw the blood. That's when I called it in on my radio that shots have been fired. And I was going to say that I was hit, but I got on over my cell phone just to clear that radio traffic for they can coordinate the rest of the call.
So he shot. You didn't even know he shot through this door, right?
Yeah, from behind the door. I didn't know how he was shooting.
Yeah.
But he shot out.
Right. So you didn't even know it was coming from here. So it's Stephen. At this point, so you're called up. You just think that you're coming to look at a door that's been blocked in the firewall, right?
Yeah, I didn't think anything out of the ordinary at the time. I came from a higher floor and came down a different hallway, service elevator, and I walked out and I rounded the corner for the 100 hallway, and that's when it was quiet at this time, and the doors are set back, as you can see in that, about a foot. And Jesus was towards the end of the hallway, but I didn't know at that time. I thought I saw someone pop out of the cubby, and I kept walking. And once I got more than halfway, is when I saw Jesus, and I started to hear shooting. And I thought at the time I didn't know it was shooting. I thought it was a jackhammer. And as an engineer, I'm like, we're not working up here this late at night. We wouldn't be doing that. Right. And it was, I believe, outside. It wasn't in the hallway yet. And that's when Jesus, he leaned out and he said, take cover, and yelled at me. And within milliseconds, if he didn't say that, I would have got hit.
Because he was still shooting. So you would have been hit had he not told you.
Yeah, it wasn't even fully in cover, and they were passing behind my head, and I could feel the pressure of the
You could feel the pressure going past you, just even being out of the way.
Yes.
And were guests coming out of the doorways?
There was a female that came out, and I told her to go back inside. It wasn't safe. Mm-hmm. Shortly after, that's when Stephen was approaching, and I told him to stay back and get cover. And that's when more rounds were dispersed. Right.
Wow. So, and I mean, he saved your life, and he saved also the woman that came out of the door to go into the hallway. I know, first of all, thank you so much for being here. And I know that you've had so many people asking for you to tell the story and to talk about this. And I understand your reluctance because you just want this to be over. So you're talking about it now, and then you're not going to talk about it again. And I don't blame you, because why relive this over and over again? But it's helpful for people to understand what a hero you are, because you, being shot in the leg, saved so many people's lives. And instead of you just getting out of there, you saved Stephen's life, you saved that woman's life, and who knows how many other people. And so we just wanted to celebrate you. That's why you're here today. Because we want to thank you for what you've done. Even after this happened, instead of going to the hospital, you stayed to help the police and give them all the information they needed to piece these things together. And also, what else did you want to mention?
I just want to mention all the people that assisted that night, whether it was Metro, the FBI, the community especially coming together to help everyone in need, the first responders, even the people that got called in to assist in the hospitals, and just everything puts pieces together on how everyone came together to help that night, even in the darkest hour.
Yes, there were a lot of people that showed up to help. All right, and Stephen?
Definitely, I want to thank the first responders and people on the ground at the show helping each other out. I mean, I think the acts of humanity were major that night, and I want to thank Jesus again, from my family and all my friends and everybody for saving my life.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's really, you did. I don't know if you're taking all that in, and I know, like you said, it's hard. You think about that a lot, and you did. You saved people's lives. And we, of course, wanted to give you money. We wanted to, and you both were very, very specific. You said you don't want money. You don't want money at all. So you're not getting any money. All right. So we're not going to give you money. But Stephen, your favorite team is the Colts, and you've never been to a game. So the NFL is flying you to meet the team and get VIP tickets. So you're going to go see the Colts. All right. right. And then also, it's over here. Okay, also, Jesus, you're a fan of the Oakland Raiders, and Shutterfly is going to give you season tickets when the team goes to Las Vegas. You're going to be able to see them. Also, we know it's really important for you to, that everyone is recognized. So Shutterfly cares about supporting communities, so it's going to make a donation of $25,000 in your name to the GoFundMe page that's dedicated to helping victims of the shooting. So,
Thank you.
for more information on how you can help the victims of Las Vegas shooting, go to our website. Thank you both for being here. And first of all, how are you both doing?
Yeah, so I don't
Doing
know.
better each day.
What do you guys think about that?
Slowly but
Shut
surely,
up already.
Just healing.
You know what I'm doing?
What are you doing? There we go. All right, so
We back.
he's saying they had the stairs blocked. So I'm having trouble now. I guess he came out of one of the rooms on that floor. I guess that's the story, right? I don't know.
That's, one version of it.
Scripted. Maybe it did seem a little like maybe rehearsed, like the whole
The engineer guy.
the whole like
I'm with Phantom Spy.
The engineer guy, the whole like
Phantom Spy says from our chat, he's
getting-
obviously not comfortable, but I don't specifically get that he's lying. The engineer guy seems
Right.
weird and coachy, though, rehearsed.
yeah, like he's like going, he's in there, he's like right before he's talking about like he gets shot or whatever, like the dude's like looks over at him, he like puts his hand on him, you know what I mean, like, oh buddy, or you better fucking say the right thing.
And if you don't,
Ready the anal probe.
Anal probe is ready.
Commence anal probing.
So, that's just another piece there. It is kind of odd how he just like bailed at it. It seems like maybe, maybe he feels bad he's getting made out to be a hero. Maybe I'm kind of wondering, did this dude even get shot? It almost makes me feel like that, man. Like watching that. Did this dude even get shot?
I mean, not in the face.
Definitely not in the face. Well, obviously he said it was in his leg.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then, the whole bailing on Hannity. I haven't seen any before video of this guy, so I couldn't tell you if like he seems mentally, disabled from previous interviews or whatever. So I don't know. I guess we'll have this another one of those time will tell type things. But while we're on the Vegas bit,
This is also weird. The thing about the major key witnesses are either dead or missing. So some brand of fuckery is afoot.
so this is again from Disclosed TV. So it is what it is. Was this one sourced? Because I did actually find a story about one of these that was on InfoWars. Like that's a whole lot better. But their stuff is usually sourced about a lady on Facebook trying to put together a group of people to kind of figure out what actually happened, put together a timeline and all that shit, and she's dead.
Yeah.
So,
And that actually is sourced. And,
Let's check.
people have a tendency to shoot the messenger, but,
right. And like I said, it's hit or miss with this place because it is open for anyone to put anything up there, pretty much.
this seems pretty traceable, and this is coming from
It didn't disconnect once. It didn't disconnect once the entire first hour. And now, as soon as we talk about Vegas, it starts disconnecting left and right. I don't get it.
Uh-huh.
One of
Wouldn't that be something if we didn't start getting flagged for spam until now?
Yeah. One of the key witnesses to the devastating Las Vegas shooting attack, which left 58 people dead and more than 500 wounded, has been found dead in her home at the age of 28. Cause of death, yet to be confirmed. All right, no source there. This is the same lady that was on the InfoWars thing.
Kimberly Schwamel
Was one of the lucky ones at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino who managed to escape the hail of bullets without being injured. Shortly after escaping the scene, she made a statement to the media claiming there were multiple gunmen firing weapons into the crowd and that she was chased by one such man. So, we've heard that, this is probably one of the sources that it originated from too as well. But, I said the dude, it makes me wonder if the guy was even shot. Just him. People died. You got the regular people running around screaming on social media that, nobody got hurt at all. It was completely made up, like equating a false flag scenario with something that doesn't actually happen. That's not always how it works. Sometimes false flags are actually carried out, the attack, and blamed. You know what I mean? It's not just like it didn't happen, like, because the whole Sandy Hook thing, I think, is what really started that. Like, people now equate false flag with something that didn't really happen but said happened. Like, actually didn't happen. So, not in the sense that Hitler dressed up, a handicapped person as a Polish army guy and shot him in the face, said they started a war. You know what I mean? The shit actually happened. People did get hurt, and I don't want us to forget about that before we even move on with this. When she was questioned on the veracity of the story, given the official story that there was only one gunman, she said that she was more than 100% sure she was right. Why is the mainstream media not reporting this? Kimberly gave a very detailed account of what she had seen in the days following the horrific event, which she questioned the official story being propagated by the mainstream media. She said that she had been watching the news with her family constantly since she had arrived home, and that she did not believe the official version of events made sense. In addition to claiming there were multiple gunmen at the scene, she also claimed that towards the beginning of the evening that a woman made her way onto the stage and warned the crowd they were going to die. See, now I had heard this before, but I didn't hear that they actually got onto the stage and did it. Okay? She and her boyfriend were later escorted from the premises. That's what I heard, but I thought it was just like running around screaming in the crowd. She also said that she had spoken to other survivors who had also mentioned that there were multiple shooters on that fateful night, including one on the ground. According to Kimberly's grandmother, Julie Norton, she died in the early hours of Monday morning at her home. She discovered her granddaughter's body just after 8:30 in the morning when she arrived to take care of her great-granddaughter, Scarlett. Norton said that she believed that Kimberly died in her sleep and after her husband left for work. Norton attributed her death directly to the stress associated with the shooting. I mean, stress is a mofo, but I guess maybe it could kill you. I mean,
you don't just die suddenly.
Before she died, Kimberly said that while she was not injured in the devastating attack, that she believed that she was going to be emotionally and mentally scarred for life. So, I mean, maybe could be possibly a sleeping pill overdose. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, it'd be nice to actually read the coroner's... Well, not nice, but it would be informative to be able to read the coroner's report and see what the official cause of death is ruled as.
All right,
although, as we know, that's typical. With cover-ups, that's rarely the case.
Right. So, moving on from her, she's not the only key witness to have died since the Las Vegas shooting.
Last week we talked about John Beelman. And then it seems there's also a guy named Chad Ishimura who parked Paddock's car.
The Beelman thing, the connection for me is really loose. I mean, this whole cell phone charger thing and shit, I don't know, man. The connection for me is pretty loose. Well, I haven't seen any proof that he was actually connected to that, except for speculation about fucking cell phone chargers on Neon Nettle. You know what I mean? I don't know. I haven't been following it as closely as I should. In addition to that, a valet worker named Chad Nishimura, who parked Paddock's car, has also disappeared after giving a statement to local news networks about his brush with the killer. It has also been revealed that a security guard called Jesus Campos, who was hailed as a hero on the night of shooting, has gone missing. Okay, so that's when he freaked out.
Yeah.
And left the interview and stuff. So this is before that.
Before the interview.
So whether the series of disturbing deaths and disappearances are purely coincidental or whether there is something deeply sinister afoot has yet to be determined. So, I mean, the social media chick, like,
Schwammel?
in the InfoWars piece, it was talking about how she was trying to, so she was planning to organize a group of survivors in order to piece things together.
Yeah, she said, this is a direct quote of Schwommel's. It says, I'm trying to organize a group of survivors. So if anyone wants to contact me, they can, because this fucked up shit doesn't make sense, and we're trying to piece things together. The media can suck it. They have no idea what went down, she added. Schwommel goes on to tell her friend, who told InfoWars he'd known her for years, that she was compiling a second-by-second story detailing her experience, and pinpoints on an image where she'd been seated with her friends. And she says, there's so much more that happened that I didn't mention too. I've been writing it all down so I don't get swayed by media and authorities. Thank you, redacted. That means a lot. God was on my side. Let me show you a picture of where we were. And there's like a cell phone picture of... Yeah, we'll have it up in a sec. The red dot is where we were. We are in the middle of the worst hit spot. I'm kind of having survivor's remorse, I think, because we should not have survived this. Crazy stuff, man. What's it? Here you go. It says, another friend of Schwommel who organized a fundraiser to help pay for funeral expenses say her family made the decision to deactivate her Facebook account due to an overwhelming amount of messages from conspiracy theorists claiming that her friend was murdered. They believe she passed away from a grand mal seizure, but the autopsy report has not been finalized, her friend wrote on Facebook on Sunday. So,
you know, one thing we need to consider, too, is different people's stakes in this, whether involved in the actual incident or not. Like MGM, on the surface level, I know we got the guy that was selling off his shares like he knew about it, but all these other hotels that are like had active shooters in them that are trying to cover that up, you know, people aren't gonna want to go to fucking Vegas, man. You know what I mean? They're already talking about Vegas is trying to rebuild its image and all this and that. But how much disinformation is these companies just trying to fucking put a positive spin in some way, you know, make themselves look less inept than they actually are to try and not lose that revenue coming in. Like, I could see maybe, because when the guy went missing, MGM came out and said, oh, we know where he is, and he's just shy, essentially. So, I don't know, man. It's just so many dimensions to this now. And now we're talking about, we're definitely getting this info on this all over the fucking place. So, and now they're starting to, looks like they might be possibly starting to kill off witnesses. And this chick in particular, she was trying to organize other people. You know what I mean? It's like organize other survivors. So, that also.
I'm angry!
And, you know, I haven't really been able to verify any of this, but I have seen also whispers and, you know, even videos purporting to be of a helicopter gunship in the air that was firing at the crowd as well.
Oh, man, I don't know.
So that's a rabbit hole that
did you hear any
you, our dear
helicopters
listeners, can dive down.
Did you hear any helicopters in any of the videos?
Well, I heard the chop of machine gun fire.
Right.
But, you know, if it...
The Real ID Act. I just don't... I just can't. I'm sick of it.
You
so,
know,
for those of you who don't, it's a federal ID card without actually being labeled a federal ID card. So they kind of circumvent the law in that way.
Yeah, we're not supposed to have a federal ID in the United States for civilians. Like, that's not supposed to be a thing. Now, Virginia is the only state that is that currently has an extension on complying with the Real ID Act.
Now, it's a long saga here, so
it really is.
I'm gonna take you in. I'm gonna take you back with some basics. Okay, we're gonna talk about the Real ID and why it's not a good thing, and then we're gonna tell you what the fuck just happened in Virginia, because it's pissing me off, man. All right, so in the bill, it leaves the specific provisions and everything up to the Secretary of Homeland Security. So State certifications. The Secretary shall determine whether a state is meeting the requirements of this section based on certifications made by the state to the Secretary. Such certifications shall be made at times and in a manner that the Secretary, in consultation with the Secretary of Transportation, may prescribe by regulation. Now, the term Secretary in this bill means the Secretary of Homeland Security. So essentially, what that means is, at any given point, the Secretary of Homeland Security could say, well, compliance regulations for the Real ID Act are now this, this, and this. Okay, so at any time. This is what it does. This is just a few of the things that it does. Okay, so in order to get a driver's license or identification card from the state now, it has to go through this process. They want you to employ technology to capture digital images of identity source documents so that the images can be retained in electronic storage in a transferable format. Meaning, they want to take a picture or scan your birth certificate, your social security number, and put it in this database. Okay? Doesn't sound so bad on the surface, right?
But this, do you want Minority Report? Because this is how you get Minority Report.
Okay, then they want them to keep the paper sources and all that for 7 to 10 years. They subject each person applying for a driver's license or identification card to a mandatory facial image capture.
Which, of course, we know they do
look,
that.
It sounds benign, right? Look, you take your picture, you put it on your driver's license, but see, at the time that this shit was going on, who was Homeland Security's Chertoff?
Mm-hmm.
The devil? We were talking, these pictures were for biometric identification, facial recognition, all of this stuff, putting into a state database, right? Keep that in mind. It's just a state database, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now they also had a provision in there for making machine readable technology that was, compliant, like standard and all that. I think at this point right now what they're using is a barcode, but originally it was intended on having RFID chips just like in the passports. You know what I'm saying? They kind of put them in the passports first as kind of a test, but
for the kind of chips that are on credit cards.
Keep in mind, at any point, the Secretary of Homeland Security can be like, we need RFID chips, or we need freaking DNA sample, right? And it's going to go to the state database, right?
We need retina scans.
It's going to go to the state database, right? And it's going to be the same in all 50 states and accessible by each other state and the federal government at any time on a fucking whim. Not only is it going to be that, but it's just one database now that a hacker has to hack to get your fucking personal identification. And if some asshole fucking Homeland Security secretary decides that he's got to put your fucking DNA on file, they're going to put your cock print on file, they're going to do all that shit, well, that's what's going to happen. Sorry, I'm trying not to turn into Alex Jones, but it really, really just boils my goddamn blood because look, people are just giving up on this shit, man. Look, in Virginia, we fought this shit tooth and fucking nail, man. We really did, and we got this piece of legislation sponsored, and it went through, right? And fuck you, Ken Cuccinelli, and fuck you, Bob Marshall.
And fuck all of you Democrats that voted for this.
All right, so look, this is what happened. Straight up, Bill, bucking on Real ID, right? They take it, they submit it, it goes to fucking committee, it comes back out and it says, bucking on Real ID at discretion of the governor. All right, now this is why Virginia has an extension right now.
We
and I want to show you
almost
this.
had it coded into law saying Virginia would be like, no to Real ID. It came this close, and these rat fuck politicians went and just stuck in two little weasel words, or 4 or 5 little weasel words, right at the end of the document that basically neutered the entire thing.
Okay, so The reason this came back into my attention is because I stumbled across this stupid-ass article about why residents in some American states may soon need a passport for domestic air travel. Now, keep in mind, I knew this was coming, but I just, I just in the back of my mind, I wasn't thinking about it, hadn't heard nothing about it in a long time, kind of forgot about it, you know what I mean? So, they're talking about the Real ID Act, right? And then they're saying because some states are not in compliance that you won't be able to board a plane domestically without a real ID, even if you've got
or a passport,
right? Or you won't be able to get into a federal building, among other things, right? Mostly to do with the federal government.
I don't want to go into a federal building, okay?
So, this Homeland Security map, the green states are in full compliance right now, right? The blue states, they're still under review, trying to figure out if they're in full compliance or not. The yellow state, Virginia, is in an extension for compliance until 2020. So what that means is next week, Virginia's going to start cranking out real IDs, right? And at this point, it's up to you. Do you want to get the real ID, right?
They actually still are, operating under the guise of asking for consent.
Yeah. So, but that's cool because in 2020... depending on who the fucking governor is, depending on who the fucking attorney general is, is it still not mandatory? You know what I'm saying? We're not bucking on this shit. This is bullshit, man.
Congress passed the Real ID Act 10 years ago. It wasn't enforced until 2013. By October 2020, the entire country will, according to the feds, need to meet the revised standards or face strict travel limitations. The U.S. Department of State recommends allowing up to 6 weeks for passports to be compiled and returned, although people can pay for a faster turnaround time of 21 days.
All right, so right now we're being held at the mercy of a governor who gives no fucks whatsoever.
Yeah,
and really the worst thing about it is none of them really do give a fuck because just like Dan just said, they say one thing, they do another. This particular crew and Bob McDonnell,
everything the government does is fugazi.
And Bob McDonnell getting out of going to jail for fucking taking bribe money and shit. On top of it, man. So these guys ran on we're for fucking liberty. They try to appeal to libertarians in Virginia. They try to repeal to like.
They do everything they can. The Republicans here in Virginia seriously do everything they can to try to keep the libertarians that have gone off to the LP, or even better, gone just full anarchist.
So
do everything they can to try to keep us on the plantation.
They pretty much, a long time ago, like perfected it. You know what I'm saying? Like they had grassroots at their beck and call because they were talking the right talk, but then when they got in the fucking office, they did all the same goddamn bullshit. And you know what? I'm sick of putting my goddamn faith in these people, man. I really am.
No law can give you freedom.
Done with these fuckers. All right? Because they say use the system. How many hours do we sit in fucking Richmond talking to these people, trying to make fucking talk sense into them? This is a national identification card. The fuck is wrong with you? And for what? And for what? So work within the system, right? Work within the system, right? Fuck you, man.
You know what?
Sorry, not you listeners. I love you.
No, but people who say, they say work within a system, but the very concept of representative government, I think, is a joke. Because when we went in there to talk to, what was our local representative at the time, Mamie Locke, and who's the other one, Gian Ward, they basically both looked at us like we had three heads.
Yeah, dude.
For even coming into their office, like, how dare you peasants approach us?
Just unbelievable, man. Just unbelievable, dude.
No, they have this superiority complex, and I think it's really disgusting. They have this. You go into their office, and there was one guy, Tom Gear, that was receptive to stopping Real ID.
Yeah, but that guy was a fucking crook too, man.
Yeah, he was
and so
kind of a crook too.
Was he really?
No, and it makes me wonder. When you have these Virginia Republicans that do listen, treat the libertarians like we ought to stay on, like we're their property, like we owe them our vote. How much of it is just pandering, and I would say almost all of it. You know, we helped start the local Tea Party things back in 2007, and this is before
before Sean Hannity got a hold of it and fucking painted himself pictures all over it and fucking drove around in a bus and hijacked and turned it into a Republican Party light.
Yeah, when we started it, it was a backlash against the TARP bailouts. It was against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, it was kind of a bipartisan thing, and it was against both parties. And we were there, you know, at the fountain in Newport News that one day that the vans full of clean-cut white kids from Broad Street up in Richmond from the GOP headquarters rolled up and started dumping, you know, this guy for governor, this guy for attorney general, this guy for this guy for that. And we were like, yo, you guys know this protest is against you, right? And what did they say? Not for long.
Dude, just to
you want to talk about a false flag? The Tea Party movement was a fucking false flag.
Any of these movements that pop up that are grassroots movements that are decentralized, they become infiltrated almost fucking immediately. That's what happened with the Tea Party movement. Look,
that's what happened with We Are Change.
That's what happened with We Are Change. This is what happened with fucking, what was the other one? Occupy Wall Street. Well, I mean, it didn't happen in We Are Change as a whole. It definitely happened in the Virginia chapter there.
Well, and you can't even do top down stuff like that anymore and really expect it to be a thing, because it just turns into a cult of celebrity.
It's like nobody's motivated. Everybody's apathetic to the shit now, man. And then one thing that I noticed about, man, when we were real heavy into activism and we were doing all that shit, and We Are Change especially, we were focused mainly on 9/11 truth, right? Also, you know, it was an anti-globalist thing essentially, right? The change part actually stood for Coalition for Halting the Agenda of the Nefarious Global Elite. So if you guys didn't know that, you'll probably never find that on the We Are Change site now. But originally, that's what it stood for, and that's what we were all about. You know, 9/11 being a big thing, but we had a group online at that time. It was Meetup, and we had tons of members on this Meetup site, right? And people were like, yeah. But then every time we would meet up, it'd be like 3 people. You know, it'd be like me and 2 other people.
And there'd be one weird CIA guy who was like, "Hey, let's go get on a boat and sail up besides a Navy ship off the back of the Norfolk Naval Base and hold a sign. That'll show him who's boss." Dude, what are you trying to get?
He was trying to get us to project an image onto a Navy destroyer. Like, dude, just shut the fuck. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing, man. The point I was trying to make is that people were treating it like a fashion show. I swear to God, I felt like it was high school, man. It was like 9/11 was an inside job. I'm so cool. People weren't really actually taking it seriously. Like, they were apathetic to it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, think about it. 9/11 was an inside job. That should frighten the shit out of you, man. I mean, and I'm not trying to pimp fear porn or anything like that, but your own government is attacking you. All right? That's not like, look at my cool t-shirt, you know, like the whole fashion show thing, man. It's just like they didn't give a fuck. It was just a slogan. It was just a trend. It was just a fad. It was the cool outsider thing. They didn't actually like grasp the weight of the situation. I mean, we're talking about our own government being complicit in an attack against our own people.
And it wouldn't be the first time.
Just talking about Charlottesville. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
The Hegelian dialectic, look, the false flag thing, the whole, it's been in use for fucking forever, man. Right? Who burned down Rome and blamed it on the Christians?
The Roman Emperor.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the way it works, and people need to wise up to that shit, man. And when they do wise up to it, I wish they would actually take it as seriously as it needs to be taken, because it's fucking serious, man.
Well, nobody took Real ID seriously, and here we are in 2 years.
Yeah, here we are. 10 years later, here we are. So, I mean, it's serious, man, because even if it's, they just did it the one time, it was only 3,000 people or whatever fucking excuse you want to say, this is the starting point for an ending point that is not fucking good for anyone. Except for maybe a few people who hold all the fucking wealth in the world. And when I say wealth, I mean you. You're their fucking property.
Yeah, of course that's why it's illegal to kill yourself. You can't destroy government property.
If you kill yourself, you got to pay double death tax. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Are you serious?
Probably. I don't know. Fuck.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus
That
Christ.
may or may not be fake news, but it sounds good. So I'm going to roll with it.
Hey, it's good for radio, though, right? That's all that matters.
Yeah. So, back to this whole Real ID thing. So, the other requirements of being compliant with Real ID, they say, to meet the requirements of this section, a state shall adopt the following practices in the issuance of driver's licenses and ID cards. Employ technology to capture... Okay, we covered that. Capture digital images, get your picture on file. What's it? Oh, so we already gone.
Yeah, I already went through that. Those are just the bullet points from the actual law itself. And I wanted to make clear so everyone understands that it doesn't even actually matter what the fucking law says, because the Homeland Security Secretary can do whatever they want and change it at any time and force the states into compliance. Because if you think it's going to stop at boarding planes and entering federal buildings, you're fucking sadly mistaken, because they're going to tax the shit out of states. They're going to hold back money. They're going to do everything they can to force them into whatever fucking crazy compliance laws they want. Maybe they want to take nudes of you and put it in a fucking database. Mm-hmm. It's open for them to do that.
Yeah, they can.
Not
they
saying
can store your nipple
right
prints.
now you're taking nudes. What I'm saying is 10 years from now, you could be fucking taking nudes, and you don't need to give them that much power over you. Whether they're going to abuse it or not, you still don't need to fucking give up your sovereignty, because this is what it's going to lead to. All right? It's not just a matter of IDs. It's not just a matter of a database. This is part of a control system that is going to keep us the fuck down in the future. And if we let them keep getting away with the shit, if we give them an inch, they take the mile. If we let them keep doing that, it's going to be no fucking good, man.
Yep. It will end in tears.
God damn it, man. This is why I don't talk about this shit anymore, because I turn into goddamn Alex Jones, man.
I'm angry!
Well, I think that anger is justified. And, I wish that, the... probably lots of people who aren't listening to the show, were, and even gave a plank scale fuck, but a lot of them don't.
That's it, man. I'm done with this. I'm done with it. I can't talk about it.
To explain part of why it's so bad, we've got an article from the Parallax that just in general is discussing the risks of biometric identification. And it's not just the government that's using it. Casinos are using facial recognition to spot card counters. Banks use voice recognition to verify you are who you are over the phone. Corporate things or corporate entities are using the NIME wristband and employees' heartbeats to authenticate them to a corporate network. Hospitals have begun to use a thing called Improvada's Patient Secure, which identifies patients via the unique vein patterns in the palms of their hands. So imagine what happens when there's one database, one federal database that all of this biometric stuff is connected to. So, all they have to get is your social security number, and boom, they got everything. They got your...
All they have to do is change one thing, and then it's automatically updated every fucking where.
Or let's say that they want to take you out. They change your name and social security number to that of a wanted serial killer.
I wish people could understand that this is not a fucking good thing, man.
10 minutes later, you're getting pulled over by the highway patrol because your car and license plate has been registered as armed and dangerous.
Sick!
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just the stuff of shitty NBC crime, drama thrillers. We're getting to the point where this really could happen to you. Somebody could hack your shit, have you listed as a known criminal.
Ridiculous!
10 minutes later, the cops are physically removing you. So the way these biometrics are collected, we all know about the iPhone fingerprint scanners, But did you know that they could use Play-Doh to lift those off?
Yeah, speaking of the iPhone thing, everybody's all tripping. Oh, look, Apple's building a database of facial recognition. No, dude, they don't fucking need it.
Google and Samsung are too, and that's the thing that nobody wants to talk about.
But here's the thing,
it's not
man.
just Apple.
They're not doing it for them because they don't need it, because they're building it themselves with everyone's, not just phone information. They've got all your personal information that you're going to have to register with the DMV.
Now, federal agencies,
there's also a set of guidelines which the DMV must make you have, and what they have to put into the database, minimums, and all that stuff, which will change. Do not have faith that these people will leave this shit alone and this is going to be for good. You give them the power to fuck you over, they're going to fuck you over.
Federal agencies have been doing this the longest. They've been collecting biometric data for the purposes of background checks, and instead of storing templates, they store the actual fingerprint images. When the United States Office of Personnel Management was hacked in June 2015, the raw fingerprint scans of 5.6 million current or former government employees were stolen. A central repository of biometric data would be a goldmine for hackers, says Salas Prabhakar, CEO of mobile security company Delta ID. They will go after it. Someone who has access to your raw biometric data could use it to access your accounts, steal your identity, or even implicate you in a crime.
But biometrics is the worst idea for security. Yeah.
If we move into a society where we're required to use biometrics to identify ourselves and that information is compromised, anyone can impersonate us, says Jennifer Lynch, senior staff attorney for the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Biometrics are not like a social security or credit card number. You can't change your fingerprints. The potentially bigger issues, the Electronic Freedom Foundation says, could stem from using biometric technology such as facial recognition to track people without their knowledge or to drive criminal investigations or prosecutions. Currently, only 3 states, Connecticut, Texas, and Illinois, have instituted laws protecting the privacy of individuals' biometrics. So Virginia hasn't even done that. In December, a tanning salon in Illinois was successfully sued under the state's Biometric Information Privacy Act for collecting customers' fingerprints without their written consent. Google, Facebook, Shutterfly, and Snap are also being sued in Illinois for creating face prints to identify people without their permission.
I'm saying, man, fingerprints, face prints, I mean...
At the federal level, the FBI has been trying to get its DNA database of more than 100 million fingerprints and 45 million facial images exempted from the Privacy Act of 1974, which requires federal agencies to reveal information they collect on American citizens. In November, the Electronic Privacy Information Center sued the agency over its plan to share this data with the Department of Defense. Roll that around in your head for a sec.
What the
The FBI is selling everybody's information to the Department of Defense, which are both executive branch organizations. So, all right, hey, Deep State, what's good? No biometric measure is 100%
Shout
accurate.
out to my homies in the Deep State.
And even under ideal conditions, says Tim Edgar, a professor in Brown University's Executive Master in Cybersecurity program, a lapse in accuracy could result in someone being falsely identified and treated as a known felon or even a suspected terrorist. It's one thing to take a picture of a person facing the camera in good lighting, and another to compare it to one taken via surveillance camera in real-world conditions, Edgar says, or to capture 10 fingerprints in a controlled way and compare them to one partial fingerprint. The consequences of false positives can be pretty severe, especially if the agency doesn't understand the limits of biometric technology.
So I remember back in like 2000 maybe, a neighboring city of ours, Virginia Beach, they have this beautiful beach that there's just too many damn people at. They were having this...
You haven't seen that many fascists in uniform on a beach since Normandy.
Oh my God, look, there's cops everywhere, right? But that wasn't enough for them, right? So they install security cameras, right? Well, that wasn't enough for them either. And then they installed facial recognition software, right? And it was catching people that weren't the people they were trying to catch. And it was so fucked up and flawed, and they still just left it. Granted, I'm sure they've come leaps and bounds since then in the technology, but like you said, you're talking grainy surveillance footage and all that, and you're trying to... Well,
and let's look at countries that... This is coming from EFF.org. Great site. You guys should absolutely check it out. It's eff.org/issues/national-IDs. And we'll post a link on our page. Mandatory national IDs and biometric databases. And here are the people who have already implemented mandatory nationwide biometric ID systems. Argentina, Belgium, Colombia, Germany, Italy, Peru, and Spain. So these schemes vary by country. Individuals are typically assigned an ID number, which is used for a broad range of identification purposes, like your social. Large amounts of personal data, such as name, birth date, place of birth, gender, eye color, height, current address, photograph, and other information is linked to this ID number. In many countries, such as Argentina, national IDs are adopted during military or authoritarian regimes. You know, even if they are kind enough to throw a few communists out of helicopters, they're still pretty rotten. National IDs and the databases behind them compromise the cornerstone of government surveillance systems and creates risks to privacy and anonymity. The requirement to produce ID cards on demand habituates citizens into participating in their own surveillance and social control. So, and apparently they're starting to do this, and India is getting ready to break this out.
An interesting thing about the facial recognition technology that I learned recently was they can dramatically improve its accuracy by taking a 3D model. So,
you mean like the government porno scanners they have in airports?
No, like a 3D model, like a 360 photograph of you.
Yeah, like the porno scanners.
No, that's a backscatter device. It's like an X-ray machine. I'm talking about, you ever been on Facebook and seen them 360 videos?
Yeah.
Where you can spin around?
Well,
well,
I got you.
like that, but your face. Like you were rendering it into a video game. You know what I'm saying? Like you were creating that's what they do. So how easy do you think it would be for the Secretary of Homeland Security to just be like, hey, guess what? I think y'all need to buy these cameras. Here's the money for it too, by the way, and also if you don't, we're taking away your school funding.
Yep, and with it, we've got about a minute left, so this is a rabbit hole for a future show. We're gonna find out. We're gonna try and dig into this and see if we can't find who's profiting the most from Real ID. Cause I'll bet you dollars to donuts that it's gonna come back to goons like Chertoff.
Well, I mean, he's the one that's fucking making all the money on the backscatter machines.
Yeah, exactly.
They had them bitches ready to go, man.
Yeah.
As soon as the underwear bomber did his thing, talk about another fucking false flag, man.
Well, we've got another.
They had them ready to go, rolled out, already fucking ordered from Chertoff's company.
Mm-hmm. There's an article I found from last year, about this time last year. It was dated October 19th, 2016. DHS warns holdout states on Real ID deadlines, and at this time, it was a couple of other states like Pennsylvania hadn't complied yet, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. But there's some hints in here. They mentioned stuff from PennDOT Secretary Leslie Richards, and who's this guy at the time? This guy is goofy looking as hell. Jeh Johnson, Jeh. Jeh. I wonder if that's like a lazy version of Jeb. But yeah, so we've got this article full of this. It's a whole litany of federal goons basically telling you, oh, well, we need to hurry. You guys need to hurry up and comply. But this is coming from FCW.com, Business of Federal Technology. Sounds like this looks like a pretty reputable news source. We might need to come back to this one, Don.
Right on. Why? Because it's got a fancy logo?
No, just I mean.
I'm just kidding,
check
man.
Out there about
Come on,
us.
I kid.
No,
I gotta get some laughs in after that fucking anger fest.
Oh, okay.
So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I hope I didn't blow your eardrums out by shouting or make you angry. I wasn't talking to you guys. I was just blowing off steam. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for
I'm angry!
We'll see you next week.
Save the heartache for another life. thousand ways.